If I give all possessions to the poor and surrender my body to the flames but have not love, I gain nothing. Now let's stop there a minute on this particular one, because I think what the first reason that love is most important that Paul describes here is because love validates our identity. That without love, anything we do, anything we say, any way that we behave is meaningless. Sure, in our human effort of love and a relationship, like you see on the tabloids, we can build a loving friendship, and we can learn to love each other and all of that, but really we're sustaining it on our own energy. And I don't know about you, but it's hard to maintain a level of love that is all on your own effort. Because the other person, not my wife's situation, but in other people, they do things to hurt you and to bother you. I'm referring to how much my wife has to put effort to love me. I'm being nice. She does a few things. But it's this understanding of this level of love that requires us in our own strength. It's just not going to get there. And it has to be driven by a love that comes from God. And so when we have this kind of love that is described in the Bible, is that our relationship with God is, is affirmed. Paul is describing this word love in here. The word love, you've probably heard the ones, there's the more sexual eros, and philo is more brotherly love, and then agape, we use certainly heavenly. But it was used in the secular world too. And agape love was agape was a word that was describing an unmerited or an unwavering love. But Christ used the word to be able to describe his relationship with God, and he brought that word to the church to bring a whole new meaning. So when Paul uses the word love here, he's not talking about how, I'll give you my parking place and all this kind of stuff. He's talking about the love of God, and that love of God, how it lives through us and how it works through our lives. And so he says, I don't care what you do. I don't care how great you are. It doesn't matter what you've accomplished. It doesn't matter how much you feed the poor or any of those things. If it is not based on this love that comes from God in you, this love that defines your relationship, that affirms who you are, you're nothing. 1 John 4:8 says this, whoever does not love does not come from God, because God is love. And then later in 16 it says, whoever lives in love lives in God and God in him. That's a pretty bold statement. You can sit here and say, oh yeah, I'm a Christian. Oh, I'm a believer. Oh, you're going to heaven. But the question that comes down to is, the real question is, but do you love? Because it says here, if you don't love, then you can't be from God. It defines who we are, the level of love. Now understand that, Paul goes into talking about babes and growing up. We're all growing in this. As I said before when we join, it's not like we join at the end. We join in the beginning. We're all learning to love. And so I don't mean to say, well, where are you in the scale? And there's some point. What Paul is describing is that your motives, your actions are based out of this love that God is working in you. And it drives your actions. You respond, and the Bible talks in other places about out of gratitude for God and the love that he has. John 13:34-35, Jesus said this, a new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. And then he says this, by this all men will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. Again, your actions of love affirm who you are. It gives you identity in Christ. It validates that. When we love. That's a reason why it's so important, because it gives us the assurance of knowing I'm a Christian. I'm knowing that I have a relationship with Christ and I believe in him. And I'm connected with the power of God's love in our life. But then it also goes in and he describes our relationship with others becomes genuine. When he's describing now our actions, feeding the poor, surrendering our bodies to flame, doing all these things becomes genuine, and as he goes on to the others, because it's based out of this love that we have with God. Galatians 5:6, for in Christ Jesus neither circumcised or uncircumcised has any value. Saying the same thing. It's not about who you are, what you do, where your status is in the church, any of that stuff. He says the only thing that counts is faith expressing itself through love. Love's what matters. 1 John 4:19, back to that one. We love because he first loved us. That's our motive. We love other people not because of what they do. Imagine that. Think about the joy of that kind of love, that I can love people not because of what you do to me or not what you offer me, not because you can get me into a ball game for free or any of that kind of stuff. I love simply because of the love that Christ has for me. When people ask you, why do you do this? Because Christ loves me. Out of my love for Christ. That's why I do it. It's not hinged on you. That's the unwavering, unmerited love that is described in here. It's not based on conditions. It's based on our relationship we have with Christ. That is so important to understand. To understand the level of love that has the power to change comes from this relationship that we have with Christ. And it becomes natural. This love matters because it validates that identity. But the second part of this, let's go on and read the second part. Verses 4 through 7 say this. Then it goes on to say, love is patient. Everybody's heard this at a wedding. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It's not rude. It's not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Paul moves from this position of identity, saying that, look, it gives us his value and it validates who we are, to another position where he says love offers grace to others, that it gives us the opportunity to show grace, to extend grace to the people around us. Quite frankly, it gives us the opportunity to be able to be Christ to the people around us, and every one of these things that are being described here. We're going to look more detail in this, so that this is where the next several weeks it's going to break down a lot of those several verses, and so we're going to look more at what it means to be patient, to show kindness, to all those various things that come in here. But notice this, though. Every one of them is selfless in nature. Some of them, patience is really selfless in the fact that I'm not demanding that I get what my way, but rather I'm willing to hold back and just be patient. The other, showing kindness, not self-seeking, looking, even delighting in the truth. It's the desire at no matter what the cost, even if it means for me to change, it's the desire to seek the truth. That's what's important, not about me. That's that unmerited, unwavering favor that is being described here in the Bible. But the thing about this is that God's love, this love, when we have it in our life and we're using it, it gives us the power to love unconditionally. Honestly, in the video, that's the missing ingredient, is this ability to love other people, to love each other, to love our spouse, to love someone unconditionally, not measured by the way you treat me. When we have the power of God in us to be able to look at people in that way, to treat people in that way, to be able to show it irrespective of that, it's huge. It's transforming not only into their lives, but into ours. In Romans 5:8 is where we're reminded of this when it says, but God demonstrated his own love for us. While we were sinners, Christ died for us. It's that understanding that even God in how he showed love was one where it says it wasn't based on us. It was based on him. We were still sinners. We were still saying thanks, but no thanks, God. And yet out of love for us, he did what he did. That was his action. The power of God's love lies in that demonstration of grace. That's where it is, in that ability to show grace to each other. What that really kind of, this is kind of a side, but it just reminds me that what matters then about this love is that we're aware of the opportunities around us. Because, the thing about showing grace, I don't know about you, I can't plan it on my to-do list. I can't say, I'm going to show grace 3 times today, on Tuesday at 2 and on Thursday, and I'm going to schedule it in here, and I'm going to go ahead and show grace here, here, and here. Maybe you guys are different.